right, everyone. It is Monday evening. It is time for another Living Force, and we got a whole new crew, a unique grouping that has never been together on the Living Force before. I'm excited. We're chatting Padawans. We got Comic-Con announcements. But before we get into any of that, Emma, punch it! Hello, everyone! Welcome to the Living Force UTD Network podcast, all about Padawans this evening. I'm one of your hosts, Eric Eilerson, and joining me for the first time in this particular configuration is a great group of folks, but perhaps none as great as the first host, the weary traveler, the constant rock, but not the producer tonight, weirdly enough. It's just normal-ass host Wes Jenkins. What's up, man?
Hey, check it out. I'm not touching buttons today. I'm doing this all without touching the keyboard. What's up, everyone? I am actually in Cincinnati, Ohio for work. So I decided to bring my setup. I have a light source here that is teetering on the brink of falling, but I had to make sure that I had, a good focal view here for y'all to see, and then a little bit of shadow on this side of the face. And the background here is nice for everyone, and the door stopper, it makes it for everybody to see. So,
you are a man of determination and set designing vigor, Wes. It is appreciated. Make sure to say hi to my good friend Joe Burrow while you're there. I'm assuming he's legally required to be everywhere in Cincinnati at the same time.
If I see him, I'll say hello.
Well, thanks, buddy. But then we go to who may be the Joe Burrow of our podcast, and if nothing else, the fearless leader of Legends Look Back, bringing some Padawan knowledge. It's Jared Mays. Welcome, buddy. Happy Monday.
What's up? Happy to be here. I haven't had to touch keys in like a year and a half, ever since that episode of Legends Look Back, when the pixels got more pixelated and my lips started talking slower and slower until my computer crashed and the show went down. And then I realized my computer wasn't plugged in. And ever since then, Corey said, we're going to find you a producer, man.
Well, I can't wait for the week when Rick produces our show. He does such a great job at Legends Look Back. That is a pre-show inside joke, everyone. Good content. But the woman who is behind the keys is the summer producer of the Cosmic Force over on Wednesdays, our Utini content manager, and the star of possibly your local LL Bean. It's Emma Parr!
Hello, everyone. Wait, where are the keys? Oh,
no! No! Who's flying this thing?
No, we're good. We're good. I promise we're good. Yeah, this is like, we were talking about this earlier. This is the first time somebody other than Corey or Wes has produced The Living Force. So no pressure or anything, right?
I feel now that we've all talked about it a lot, there's no way anything can go wrong.
No, definitely not.
That's great. Well, welcome, you marvelous folks. Corey and Charles are traveling for the week. But at Utini, we contain multitudes. We contain so many folks, and I'm so happy to have this crew tonight to talk about some Padawans in honor of Padawan by Kirsten White dropping tomorrow, which we'll talk about here in a second. But first, I want to welcome all of you who are watching and listening. I see folks like Brandon and Stephanie talking about their Padawan copies in the chat. I hope that as you're listening, you've already received yours, or if you're watching later, you're excited to dive in. If you're watching us on YouTube, as always, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, because we have so many great offerings on the Utini channel. And if you're listening to an audio platform, Spotify, your Apple Podcasts, we always love reviews. They really do help people find the show. So if you've been listening to us for a while, and we finally became maybe that 5-star product for you, tell people on the internet so they can help find us. It really does help folks. It helps our ego. I'm not going to lie to you. It makes me feel good. And speaking of Utini, I want to tell you all about some updates to the Utini site. over on utini.com. You know we love to send out some guides to help you with your Star Wars reading. Last week, our very own Caroline published a video on this channel about the most important stories in Attack of the Clones era. And if you'd like to read that article, along with links to the books, our very own Carl Sander wrote a article for utini.com that gives you all the books in the Attack of the Clones era. Are you feeling some prequel vibes? You are. We always are. Don't lie about it. So head over to utini.com. Check that out. And tomorrow, which is, check the calendar, the 26th, Padawan by Kirsten White does come out, and you know how we do it here at Utini. There will be a written review published tomorrow. There will be a video review published on this very channel. Be sure to come see what we thought about it. Share your thoughts in the comments. And, I don't know. Guys, I'm very excited because there's something special about book release days, especially in this community. And, I gotta ask the four of you, or the three of you. I'm the fourth. The four of us. How you feeling in the lead up to Padawan? I feel like Shadow of the Sith just came out. It feels like it's a little quick, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't
Yes!
seem like it's a little
Correct,
quick,
Wes!
because I finished Shadow of the Sith. It was a long one too. It was a hefty boy. It was not that I knew. I read the audiobook, I guess. I got it hefty in megabytes. But I finished it, and I finished it probably like 6 or 7 days ago, and I had nothing else to listen to. So I had started listening to a non-Star Wars book. Can you believe it? Because I didn't think I had time. I didn't think I would have time to start Shadow of the Sith over again. So I do get Padawan downloaded probably tomorrow morning, I guess, whenever they show it available. So I pre-ordered it. So I'm ready to listen to it. Well, to not a 16-hour audiobook, but I'm glad that it's a little shorter.
Only slightly. Jared, remind me. I know you dabble in the audiobook and the physical as well. Are you going to be probably going audio for most of the new releases now, or are you back to physical?
Yeah, it's a nebulous answer because, well, there's multiple factors. I'll say this much. I like to listen to my canon books when they come out on audiobook because most Legends books don't have unabridged audiobooks. However, they're rectifying some of that with the Essential Legends collection. I think there's 2 more of those coming out in August. That's exciting. Woo.
Oh, wow. Right. That's next month.
Yeah. I just started sweating thinking about all the work I've got to do to get ready for that. But I will say I like to listen to the canon books that come out on audio. So looking forward to doing it that way, if at all possible. I'm trying to remember who's reading the audiobook for Padawan.
For Padawan, I don't remember off the top of my head, but let me check the Google Doc
pull
for
up
the review that
facts
I wrote.
Research before the show.
It's going to be Gary Furlong. A name
Gary.
Gary, of Indiana fame.
Edward's dead.
I don't know. I'm sorry, Mr. Furlong. I don't know if you're from Indiana.
Yeah, we can't wait to listen to your product.
Yeah, no offense to you. I'm sure your voice is better than the Gary, Indiana of audiobooks. Emma, I guess I know you've also gone back and forth depending on project. Where are you at nowadays? Do you like to go more in the physical new releases, feel the cover, or do you like to kind of put it on audiobook while you're doing other stuff?
Man, I do a blend of both. Like I really enjoy listening to it as I'm flipping through the pages because I can listen to it.
That's right. You're the hybrid person, right?
Yeah. It is like the most expensive way to do it, but like to me, I find it the most enjoyable. I listen to it slightly faster when I'm also reading along with it with my eyes, and I don't know. Sometimes things are pronounced strangely, and I absorb it better. I think when I'm doing both.
I love that. I think Molly Damon does that as well. That hybrid reading approach, and a lot of folks are getting on that.
Is that how you did Kenobi in one day?
Yes, that is how I did Kenobi in one day. I read it I read/listened to it at 3 times speed. So 3.2.
I do appreciate the pronunciations in the audiobook. That helps me out a lot. So
Team Marquis Road, though. Sorry, audiobook listeners, it's Marquis Road.
How else would we learn to pronounce a name like Jeruis Sabaoth?
Oh, it's a great point.
I never would have got there.
Wow. Kaiboth. I'm Kaiboth all day long until the day I die.
Well, however you, our lovely listeners and viewers, are taking Padawan into your brain this week, I hope you have a great time. Of course, head over to utini.com. Once you're done, throw a user review on the site so other people can see what you thought of it. And be sure to see if you agree with what we say tomorrow on the site. No, I want to say thank you to our glorious Patreon community over at patreon.com/Utini, including our good friend Magdalife, who did upgrade to an annual patron this past week. It really does help us plan out our year. Maggie, you've been around here for so long. We really appreciate you, saying, sure, I'll help these jokers out for another year. It really does make a world of difference to all of us. And to all of you that help support us, thank you so much. We hope you're enjoying some of your exclusive behind-the-scenes content, including videos, including some podcasts, including early access to some shows. And as always, if you want to join them over there, patreon.com/Utini is the place to go.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Emma,
Yes.
now it is time for another button, because we're doing the Star Wars Weekly Roundup.
Oh boy, thank you for the warning.
Button!
It's the Star Wars Weekly Roundup.
Button was pressed. Loved it. This week, my friends, the Star Wars Weekly Roundup comes to us all the way from San Diego. That's right, San Diego Comic-Con happened over the weekend, and we're not going to go deep into the Marvel panel, but oh my goodness, that was really good.
But we could.
We'll talk about Star Wars.
Night.
I know, we don't have time for that kind of stuff. I'll just say I cried quite a bit during that Black Panther trailer. Anyway, there was some Star Wars news, starting off with another series. We don't get a lot of info about the live-action projects until they're pretty well in development, but this weekend we did find out about The Acolyte, the upcoming High Republic live-action show, because, y'all, we got a casting. Amandla Stenberg of the Hunger Games fame, of the Hate You Give fame, was announced as being in the series with this photo. Look at that Darth Maul fit
It's
next to
iconic.
R2. She seems just awesome, and I don't know, y'all, I gotta tell you this. I think you saw this clip. We talked about it off air, but for those listening, Amanda Stenberg did admit that she not only reads Star Wars books, but listens to Star Wars podcasts. So, Amanda, if you're listening, we love you, and
love you
welcome.
already.
This is
Yeah.
so cool.
Thank you for listening.
If you want to read a Legends book, I know a show for you.
Yes.
There you
Will,
go.
will you send Amanda Stenberg Legends books, Jared?
I won't,
think-
but
I
I'm
will.
pretty sure that Rick will, because I sent him a whole bunch of mine.
There we go.
Someone will
Slide
send
into
you
the
them,
slide into the
Amanda.
DMs.
Amanda,
Yeah,
I will send you comics. That is what I will do.
Yes. Anything you want. It's so great. I mean, obviously the Acolyte being in the High Republic era is already amazing. Getting anything in that era seems cool. It's all dark side based. And we have a queer woman of color leading a show, which is great. And I'm sure no one on the internet will be at all rude about it.
Yeah.
I hate people. But overall, very exciting. And it was just very cool to see how stoked she was about being part of this universe. And it made me feel old, because I remember Rue in the Hunger Games being like a wee little child. And
It's
now she's
mind-blowing
like,
that it's
a
the same
person.
actor. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. So,
she seems just so excited to be part of the universe. And I mean, I think that there's a very, very high chance that they're listening to High Republic or listening or reading High Republic books. I think the chances
Sure.
of that are very high.
I think
'Cause
so.
They did mention
Yeah.
that they've been immersing themselves into the universe
Mhm.
with reading and watching things before going to bed and like all that good stuff. Podcasts. so-
One of us. One of us.
Essentially. She's been doing her research, I bet.
Yeah. I didn't think it was cool. People are throwing around a possible Keith Trennis casting. I do think the
Ooh.
show technically takes place near the end of the High Republic.
Yeah.
That being said, I don't know when that is. Like, I assume it's
Yeah.
going to be like a couple hundred years later, but it could be, the High Republic could be 5 years long. We actually don't know.
Ooh. Is that a sneak peek into phase 3, or what that would be called? Phase
I don't know.
3? Wave
Phase 3, phase 7, with phase.
Phase, okay.
Trying to ride the waves and do the maths, and I'm just gonna wait and see. Very excited either way.
Yeah, this whole thing, honestly, I think we're going to get to the end of this whole thing, and we're still not going to know the difference between waves and phases, and I think that's okay. I think that's okay, but no.
They
Well,
had to
I
do
mean,
it.
the Marvel stuff too, which also has waves and
Phases.
phases, right?
Nobody knows how the waves and phases move.
It's provocative. It gets the people going. But yeah, as Brandon says in the chat, I love the thought of a main Star Wars actor reading the High Republic. It's so
Yeah.
cool because, I mean, even that behind the scenes with you a while back,
Oh, yeah.
Christina Ariel told him about the High Republic show, and he was like, oh, that sounds great. Clearly hadn't read it yet, which is fine. But the fact that our actors are now reading the stuff that we're reading and loving the stuff we're loving is amazing.
He did read Kenobi. He said so
Yes, he
much
did.
in an interview. Both he and Deborah Chow read and
Wow.
loved Kenobi.
That's
And
awesome.
I'm still glowing from hearing him
Yeah.
say that. It was very exciting.
It'll never get old that they read this stuff, and that all the people that are making this are now of the age where they grew up with it just like we did. And so I loved that. But of course, that wasn't the only reveal we got. We also got a reveal linked to a book coming out next month, The Princess and the Scoundrel, in the form of Leia's full wedding dress and Han's wedding attire as well. But guys, look at this all in its glory. This was an actual physical standee at Celebration. And what do you think of the fit, as the kids would say?
Girly,
How
it's
does it look?
gorgeous. Oh my goodness. Like, I mean, come on. It is so Leia, I think, to not have like a traditional, well, I mean, who knows what's tradition in the Star Wars universe? I don't know if it's, wearing a white dress is tradition, but
Good
if
point.
it is, I think it's totally
is in
Leia
Legends.
to like it is in
Oh,
Legends.
it's in Legends?
Yes.
Good. Well, let's go with that. So I think it's totally Leia to kind of break from tradition and go with some sort of, I think it looks green-ish there, like a little light green. I think her shoes are so cute with a little like tie kind of going up to her
Yeah.
knee. That's so cute. I love it.
I'm just glad that the Ewoks killed someone that size that was wearing that dress to have it for her. I think that
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
that's really
I was
helpful.
thinking. It
Right?
also, to me, looks reminiscent of her indoor garb.
Yes.
Like her,
Oh, sure.
her strike team camo suit.
Mm-hmm.
And she has
That's
the hat and
interesting.
pulls the cracker out of the hat and feeds it to Wicket. And this reminds me of that, which makes me excited.
Yeah.
It's cool. Maybe it's
I,
been like
however-
repurposed in a way. That'd be cool.
Han didn't especially dress up for the occasion. However, his boots
It's not
they look
shocking.
like they've been shined by some Ewok saliva.
Oh yeah.
Ew,
Yeah,
Ewok
It
I-
looks like a
saliva.
slightly
Yeah,
slightly
spit
nicer leather jacket. I mean, it looks about the same. It's just a new one that he has.
That's right.
Basically.
Yeah.
The same
Honest.
jacket, just a
Yeah,
new one.
it's like in
Yeah.
The Force Awakens when Leia says new jacket, and he said no, same jacket.
No, same
Or
jacket.
no,
yeah.
different jacket. Yeah,
Yeah, same jacket. New jacket.
New jacket. Yeah.
Yeah, I also loved his expression in this artwork because he's like, "Oh my god, it's Leia." She's like, he's like, "Oh, she
Yeah.
looks amazing." Like, it's really, really beautifully captured. And I'm not sure. I think you all saw. We posted in Slack, at least, and it was on Twitter. There was a cosplay couple of old Han and Leia that took a picture next to Han and Leia in their wedding outfits, and it was,
Yes.
oh,
So
it made my heart
sweet.
happy.
My
And-
favorite thing about it was Corey's reaction. Who is that?
Who is that? It's fictional
Who is
character.
that,
Han and Leia. They're
Come on,
cosplayers.
Dude, you've been to two
Oh, got it.
celebrations now. Those are cosplayers.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Also,
Corey,
to
we
any
love
of you, we love you, buddy.
Yes.
We miss you dearly. If anyone's listening or watching, that is a cosplayer. I know we have a great cosplay community, and if you're gonna be at Celebration next year, a couple years later, here you go. Here's the full outfit. I think that this couple costume, I think, could be amazing, and I will not be surprised if we see actual people getting married in this.
Yeah.
Honestly, in years to come.
I was gonna say that I am waiting for that now, like having the groom be dressed as Han and the bride
Mhm.
having like a dress and shoes similar to that. Oh my goodness, it's gonna be so cool.
Anything
amazing.
will beat the sheer staggering number of men I saw at Celebration dressed in the gold bikini. Anything will be
Yes.
better than that.
It was a oddly large number.
Yeah. Can I tell a funny
Yeah.
story about that real quick? Oh,
Please.
Yeah.
God.
Sorry, everybody, for bringing this
Please.
up.
No.
Let's go.
So my uncle came to Celebration the day that we were doing the panel because he lives out in California and he wanted to see our panel, and he came with my dad. And so they waited outside the room that we were doing the panel in, and I went out and said hi to him, and we hadn't seen each other in like a bunch of years because we don't see each other very often. And he turns around, and the first cosplay he sees in all of Celebration is a man in Leia's bikini. He immediately says, "What is wrong with?" Yeah, Wes was there. He's like, "What is this? Like, what are we doing here? Like, am I hallucinating?"
He says it to the guy.
No, he said that to
No,
me.
I couldn't hear him.
He asked him for a
Just-
picture though, and so
Oh, okay.
I have that picture.
You
That's
do
how
you.
it changes.
It's
You
fun,
learn
yeah.
quick. You learn
You
quick
do,
at
yeah.
Celebration.
They're so funny though. They're so
They are
Yeah.
funny to see.
Yeah, I love it.
I
And
love
when
it.
he like took the picture,
Bless
he like,
him.
he like did a pose. It was great. It's like,
Oh
So
yeah,
maybe-
you gotta work it.
Yeah.
Maybe the Han and Leia wedding outfit is a better cosplay choice, just possibly. If
Flip-flop.
you
Yeah,
did that, if you already did the
maybe.
gold bikini and you're a dude, we could try this one now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'd be down for that.
Absolutely. I love it. And it's fun because we've seen like the top half of it on Princess and the Scoundrel on the cover, but I am so glad that they did commission officially the full one, and it's beautiful. And again, as a reminder, that book comes out August 16th. Now, a couple other reveals we got at the Lucasfilm Publishing panel. We didn't necessarily get more titles, but we did get more visual reveals as far as covers and artwork go, starting off with one of my most anticipated projects of the next year, the Battle of Jeddah audio drama by George Mann. We got a cover featuring, I believe this is Creighton's son and Ada Forte.
Those are some names.
Yeah, those are their names. Yes.
What's funny is there
absolutely.
will be a point in time when those names are just like a back pocket for us.
Oh, yeah.
They will be
Oh, yeah.
unbelievably familiar. That's wild.
Yeah.
This is very exciting. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I can't imagine, when we saw Rogue One, and I'm like, oh, there's this cool planet that takes place a part of it, and there's a statue, that all these years later, I would be getting goosebumps over this cover for, like, the official battle that happens on Jeddah. And, of course, I mean, shout out George Mann, a friend of the show, one of the loveliest people in the business, period. I'm so glad he got to write this project and see this cover that is just, I mean, for our audio listeners, you got the two Jedi up on the cover. There's a lot of gold in it. It's very bright, which is a little surprising to me. But
Like
emblazoned
sunset colors.
Yeah, kind of that ombre.
It's lulling you into a sense of security, like things are gonna be like happy and bright, but we all know it's not. So
The look on the alien Jedi's face is not giving me a lot of security.
is that a Shizor
Looking-
alien?
It looked
I
like
think it's a
he's seen some
Nikto,
stuff,
right?
Okay, the Nikto.
Okay,
like a
I'm fine.
Nikto.
I'm fine with that. That's good.
Looks
Yeah.
like he's seen some stuff.
Yeah.
It never
So,
would have
well-
occurred to me that the High Republic would tie into Rogue One. Like that never would have been on my High Republic bingo card.
Yep.
But
No.
it
Yeah.
is extremely exciting.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, the
I mean-
possibilities are endless now. Like, if they can tie it in with with Rogue One, they can tie it in with anything.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And especially now that we have this, and then we'll have seen the first season of Andor by this point.
Yeah.
So I mean, the year of Rogue One is going.
Rogue One Renaissance,
Yeah, Jared. Sorry.
baby.
Yeah, Andor starts in a month, Jared.
Caught in a time loop. Ah!
I know.
And guess what? We're gonna be having a Star Wars show and a Marvel show going on at the same time again. So fun
Whew.
stuff.
So much
Exciting
great stuff
times.
coming. So Battle of Jeddah we got. Of course, before Battle of Jeddah, we do also get the High Republic comic, which is still just called the High Republic, but it will be issue 1, and then issue 2, we got the first cover reveal by good friend of the Cosmic Force, Aria Anandito, and this cover shows 3 amazing characters, Vildar Mack, Maddie Cathley, and Tay Sirik. Again, like you said, Jared, we're going to know these folks back pocket before long.
Yeah.
And I love this because this is so peak Ario. I mean, they all got action poses and there's threat. I don't know if that's a crossbow on the cover, but it looks like it
hey.
might be.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
That
you
is
got the pink
awesome.
Liku and the bearded Jedi in the back and the purple one with the ears and
With the ears.
very exciting.
Yes!
Those ears are awesome, dude.
Oh.
Okay, this is called the High Republic #1.
This is
number
number
two.
2.
This is
Yeah.
This is the High Republic Volume 2, #2.
No.
I
so-
think yeah, how's this going, Emma? You're the expert.
Yeah. So kind
What are we
of.
calling this?
This is similar to how like the Star Wars runs work, right? So like we had the Star Wars 2015 run, and now we have the Star Wars 2020 run. So we kind of denote it with like the year.
the year
So we'll
that it
probably
starts
end
in.
up calling it
Mm.
the High Republic 22.
2022.
2022.
Okay.
So
Okay,
'Cause
so then
then-
when we get to
okay.
issue 22, we'll call it Star Wars 22. These naming conventions are we're
Yeah.
bordering into Legends level.
I know.
of
We
weird
are.
naming conventions.
We
You're
are.
right though. You're right because technically we already have a High Republic Volume 2 because it was like the second trade that came out. So I don't know
think
if
that was
we'll
the
call
Legends
that like
convention was
the High
naming the
Republic
old
21.
comics.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that
it-
the Legends convention was the volumes. So that's the way I think. But
Oh yeah.
you know, I
gonna
gotta
confuse
love
ya.
some Star Wars convoluted naming timeline nonsense.
It's
Yeah,
it's why we exist, right? It's
It
why we
is.
have a whole site. If this was
For me,
easy,
it is. Yeah.
we would need us. But the easiest thing to do is just to go to your local comic book shop and say every Star Wars title.
Yep.
Just pull them, and then every Wednesday, just go see what happens.
Yeah. Or you can listen to the
There you
Cosmic
go.
Force every week. We do our weekly pull list, and we talk about what issues have come out
that's
that
how I do it.
day.
Yeah.
Yep.
There it is. And you know what, Emma? You're going to be talking about another series on that
Yes.
very show from our friends at Dark Horse. We got the first cover revealed of the High Republic Adventures #1. This will be easier because it's changing publishers from IDW to Dark
Yes.
Horse. We got Daniel Jose Older writing, Tony Bruno drawing, Sav Mulligan as a Padawan or pirate.
Wes,
What
I
a
just
great,
heard,
what
I
a
just heard
great
an
cover.
audible reaction. What's going on there?
That's an Imbo hat.
It looks
Yes,
like
That was
it,
true,
isn't it?
yeah.
And
this character
The
was
last
in...
name is Mulligan. I love
Yeah.
everything about this.
Yeah.
Try again.
Yeah.
Try
That's
again,
right.
Jared.
Oh, I am the king of mulligans, my man. The absolute king.
I got
I
it.
don't
I got it.
golf often, but when I do, I always take 10 mulligans on every shot.
There you go.
Good.
Oh, on every shot.
else can you do it?
That's
Every shot. Uh-huh.
Not
So
the spirit of
Padawan
Mulligans,
or
but okay.
pirate? Is that a stolen lightsaber in her hand?
Well,
Or
so-
is that even a lightsaber?
Listen, y'all. Sav Malagan has been in the comics before. I'm completely blanking on which ones right now, but she has definitely
High Republic
shown up.
Adventures in...
It was the one on Takodana, right?
Yep, Sav Mulligan is the Jedi Master of the Temple on Takodana in
Gotcha.
Phase 1. And
Yep.
knows Maz Kanata, and they're going to have
Yeah.
adventures with Maz Kanata and Sav in this comic.
Oh, dang.
remembering
That's
this.
cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
because
I haven't heard much from Maz Kanata.
the previous series. They like hint like, oh, Sav, that's a real rascal. All those
Mhm.
things they did way back when. Wink,
Yep.
wink. And then they say the next phase will be set 200 years in the past. And
Yep.
you're like, oh, there. It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Backstory
Justin makes a great
coming.
point. Also, Edge of Balance Volume 2, the manga as well. I forget,
That's
yep,
right.
Sav was
I
in that.
Yeah.
That was it. Yeah, so that's coming from Dark Horse. I love that cover. It's very dynamic. It's very exciting. And Dark Horse, our final reveal we're going to talk about was also from Dark Horse. This is a one-shot comic, which I was surprised about. This is not a series, just
Yeah.
one issue, written by the Queen herself, Claudia Gray,
Queen.
and it is simply called Quest of the Jedi. Not final art for the cover.
No,
But-
coming out final.
It is, quote, inspired by Qui-Gon and the Green Knight and Arthurian legend. Which is
Wow.
said legend.
fascinating.
Okay.
Sorry, I said the word.
He said legend.
Is this Morbius from The Matrix? What's that actor's name?
It's Morbin time.
Lawrence Fishburne?
Lawrence Fishburne.
Lawrence
Emma,
Fishburne.
don't you dare bring those memes into the show. It's Morbius. Yeah, I love. You know what this is giving me? This is giving me kind of those Mythos Obi-Wan vibes with like the large cape and like the looks like a blaster on his hip a little bit. Like I know he's probably
Yeah.
still with the Jedi, obviously at this point. But I'm excited, and I have no idea what to expect because I did not think Claudia Gray would just be doing a one shot. So this has to be
Yeah.
Yeah.
very interesting.
Is that
Like
is
top
that
of my list
forearm
of what I
armor that he
anticipate.
has? Almost like the
It
battle
kinda
armor that they
looks
had
like
in
it.
Clone.
Oh,
It does
yeah.
look like
That's
Tartakovsky
interesting.
Clone Wars armor.
Oh yes, Jared. Yeah, Tartakovsky.
Wow, I have
So-
a bingo card here. We've referenced Power Rangers and The Matrix and Tartakovsky. Whew, this might be the one thing I'm most excited about out of all of tonight's announcements.
Yeah.
I have mixed feelings on this. So
Oh,
why are we giving Claudia a one shot when she can do so much more with a series? Like that, I'm a little disappointed, and I think that's because I set my expectations too high. Folks, we always preach against doing
the
this.
one rule.
where's Corey
Yes.
when we need him?
I thought maybe we
Do
would
we-
do like a mini series, maybe at least. I don't
Mhm.
know. But at the same time, I think it is going to be amazing because it's written by Claudia, and I think that's going to make up
Yeah.
for it. I just hope that this isn't her only project in this wave or the next two waves.
Yeah.
I hope.
I just hope that she's doing this because at New York Comic Con they will announce that she's actually writing the Bail Organa solo novel that's going to be coming out in the spring.
It could happen. I mean, who knows?
Could it be
All
the
of these-
size of a graphic novel? Do we know? Is that just a
It
single
could be
issue?
jumbo
I-
sized, because Wes is from Texas and he expects everything to
Jumbo-
be jumbo sized.
I would expect
We don't know what
it's like
jumbo
a
sized is. It's just
everything's bigger
size.
than normal
That's
size.
right,
Yeah.
right.
I'm going to guess it's like the $6 issues, like that, like an annual or something would be my assumption.
Yeah, like 32 instead of like 24. I would
Yeah.
say.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like, because I think if it was going to be a graphic novel, I think they would like call it a graphic novel.
Yeah.
That's
So I
normally.
think it's
Yeah,
only
that's
just a
true.
one shot.
Yeah.
That's true.
I
But
kinda
it's
like-
interesting because like she keeps saying like, "Oh, I can't really talk about what I'm working on." I'm like, is she really acting like this because of a one shot?
Who knows?
I don't know.
Who
She's being
knows?
sneaky.
I kind of like that it's a one shot. Counterpoint to Emma, because I've got some serious comics. Like the what's the word for when you've got anxiety about a thing that's gotten out of control?
Like,
Oh, I think that's just a constant state of being.
Pile
A
up.
hankering?
I've got a big
backlog?
backlog, a pile up.
Yeah.
And so now I've got this anxiety of like how many Star Wars comics I need to read, but I'm
Mhm.
behind
Yeah.
on them. Therefore, I look at the pile of them and then go do something else because like I don't have time to.
that's
read
really
them all.
understandable,
Too many.
actually.
Yep, I get it.
Yeah.
I get
So
that.
a one shot is like it's a little nicer in terms
That's
of
a lunch break.
I can do this. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like it. And obviously, we will be letting you all know. Well, Emma, the Cosmic Force will let you know how they like it. We may sneak some stuff into the Living Force and as well. But of course, keep your eyes out for all of these. We'll be getting more announcements at every con. Now we're in con season. Like I said, New York Comic Con's coming up. And who knows? There's just random Star Wars news all the time. But I'm very excited about all these. They all look great. Of course, in the meantime, before all of these projects, we have Padawan coming out tomorrow, July 26th, and we have The Princess and the Scoundrel coming out on August 16th. Make sure to get your pre-orders in, and make sure you're visiting the utini.com release schedule to get all your pre-orders in on the most up-to-date release schedule on the internet. Thank you, Frank. All right. Now, for our main segment tonight, we are talking very adequately about Padawans. Because of the self-titled book that comes out tomorrow, Padawan by Kirsten White, I thought it would be fun for us to kind of dive into the relationship of Master Padawan. It is such a key thing in Star Wars, but as I was kind of making up the outline for this episode, I realized this definition has shifted a lot based on the original trilogy, then the prequels, and then the sequels, and then all the books. Like each writer and creator kind of
Legends?
adjusts it. Legends.
It's not a thing until it is.
Yes.
But then it only ever kind of is.
That's great.
That's
All
it. That's the
those
show,
legends
everyone.
you
All
can
right. Thank
ever-
you for. So I want to ask you all to start off tonight's show before we go into some specifics. Jared, I want to start with you. In your opinion, just for your knowledge and your beliefs, what is a Padawan to you? What does that mean?
All right, I've got a very stark, distinct memory of driving up to a family event, my great grandparents' house, shortly after The Phantom Menace was released. And my second or third cousin, my dad's cousin's son. So what's that to me? Daniel.
Dad's cousin's son.
He's Daniel. Anyway,
He's like your third
Whatever.
cousin or something.
He's a cousin. He's a cousin.
whatever that relationship is.
His cousin.
He's
Do I need to
Daniel.
mention that this was in Arkansas? So that makes it, all the cousins in Arkansas. Throw your jokes at me. All right, let's field them. Here they go. All right. And he was playing Star Wars out by the highway, like one does.
What does that mean?
It's the middle of the summer, and he's got
Dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. He's got a lightsaber. Semis are just soaring by. He's got a lightsaber, Jedi robes, and a Padawan braid.
Oh.
And we rolled down the window, and my mom was like, "Hey, look, son, he's playing Star Wars." And I look him in the eye, and he says, "Hey, Jared," and I said, "What is wrong with you?" I was so embarrassed for him wearing that freaking braid. And since then, I realized I probably should have just played Star Wars with him and not judged him. And now we have this
Whoa.
inclusive community that is Utini, and I'm trying to make right my Star Wars gatekeeping karma with all this. But Daniel, if you're out there, I'm sorry about that. And your braid wasn't cool, but I shouldn't have judged you for it. That's what Padawans mean to me. I think about my cousin with his braid.
Was his
All right,
real hair or
dudes
was it
with
a clip-on?
braids. All right.
But in all seriousness, the master apprentice role is a really special relationship. I'm excited to talk about it. I've had some great mentors professionally and personally in my life, people who have allowed me to shadow them and to teach me gently. Sometimes they have to call me on things when I'm out of line, or to give me the appropriate criticism or correction, and to develop a friendship. And then eventually for those same people to treat me as a peer instead of as a peon is really a beautiful experience. And I'm excited to talk about it with Star Wars.
Awesome. Man, anecdote and answer in one. I love
thought
it.
you were just gonna,
That was a roller
I thought you were just
coaster.
gonna rip the way that he had his dress, his attire, and the lightsaber. Like, you
And his
can't
form?
have a lightsaber that early. You can't have that,
You
that
fool!
early with that's a Padawan.
I just
But Elam?
I didn't accept the braids at the time. It was a lot to swallow for an original
Yeah.
trilogy guy.
Wow. I'll say mine really simply. And I want to hear Wes and Emma. I think for me, a Padawan is simply the perfect marriage between parent and teacher, in like the literal sense, like educational teacher, as like all parents are teachers to an extent. But I think that the fact that Jedi initiate children are taken from their families and don't have that structure, I think a master acts as a parent and teacher, and a Padawan is therefore the combination of child and student. And when it's at its best, which we'll talk about a little later with examples, I think it is when you were able to acknowledge the emotional reliance on the master and the emotional truths, but also like the practical knowledge of learning things about the universe and learning things about how to help in a more like educational way. So that's kind of what I've gotten, and that's a new thing too. Thank you. That's kind of what I take from it. Emma, what about you? If you're thinking Padawan in the dictionary, what pops up?
Yeah, I really like the way Jared put it, honestly. Somebody that
Making fun of kids with braids?
right.
I
That was my
apologize.
very
favorite
quick,
part of
I
the
was wrong.
conversation. I do it all the time. Anytime I see someone with a braid. Yeah, I think just somebody that you look up to as a mentor, and someone that teaches you not in the way that they want to teach you, but in the way that you are best taught. Like, they kind of conform to how you learn. I think that that's also really important. I feel like we see that a lot with like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. Like, they kind of butt heads a lot, and kind of have different styles of being, and I find that one to be really interesting, just because it shows that you kind of have to like adapt to each other, and it's kind of more of like a working together as a team, and not like an individual thing. And I also think I feel a lot of connection to like the whole idea of Padawan, just honestly like with Utini stuff. I mean, I came on the team like not knowing anything, and getting taught like how to make videos and how to podcast and doing all that stuff, and now we're like peers, and I think that's like, yeah, it's really cool concept, and one that I think can apply to a lot of people's lives, and that's why I'm glad that we have the concept of a master and Padawan. And I think it's also why I'm glad that we have a lot of like character studies, with masters and Padawans, the good partnerships and the bad partnerships, and what makes a good partnership and all that.
And Emma, I'm now really ticked we didn't cut your hair at Celebration. I'm like, Rex, it's just like we should at the party just take off a lock of it.
Man, I was just at the hairdresser on Friday. I should have had her done that.
Well, hey, it looks great. Well done.
Thank you.
Wes, your hair is great as well.
Thank you.
But
Covered up today.
that's fine. I know what it looks like in my heart. It's thicker than you think. Anyway, Wes, what does a Padawan mean to you, man?
All right. So for me, I'm gonna make the analogy of minor league baseball. So master Padawan is minor league baseball to me. So your minor league baseball player coming up through the ranks from single A up to the minors, and you have the older players in triple A and double A, and you have the coaches there that have been brought down from the majors before. They've been there, they know what's going on. So the minor league baseball player, he's going to be better than you, or you hope that he's one day going to be better than you and have better skills, and you're trying to pass that along. So you're trying to get him up to the majors, and then you're trying to keep him there with his skills. So that's what I equate really the master and Padawan relationship is. You're trying to see that crossing of learning, that crossing of knowledge pass you by, and you can see what you've taught this person to progress into Major League Baseball, into life. I mean, that's basically kind of what you do as a parent. I'm not a parent, but Jared, I mean, I think you're just trying to instill like knowledge into your children. You see that they grow with what you teach them. So you want them to be better than where you were.
That's right. And I'm teaching my kids to like college baseball, not minor league baseball.
I mean, man, Wes, I mean, metaphor aside, also no one gets paid as a Jedi or a minor league baseball player, so I think that works as well.
True.
But I mean, yeah, you get that great moment, which leads me to my next question about, you know, when is this relationship at its best, which I know, Jared, you had a lot of thoughts about. It reminds me of that quote from Last Jedi, right? It's the "we are what they grow beyond." That is the burden of all masters, which I think is, as a person who is no longer in the educational setting and is not a parent, but I can assume this is how most parents and teachers feel, is like that is the best goal, is for your student or your child to become better than you at everything you teach them, because they have taken your advice and your experience and expanded it, and then they will do the same, and they will do the same, and the lineage just goes on, which I think you can see in Star Wars, from like, you know, Yoda to Dooku to Qui-Gon to Obi-Wan to Anakin. Like, you see the lineages of power and of wisdom, and I think that's so great. So Jared, you know, you mentioned, I want to give you the floor. Like, when do you think this relationship is really at its best, both in actual examples we have and also just in ideas that you've cultivated over the years?
Some people are especially gifted at this, and I had some really good mentors who, like, this was a huge part of their philosophy for like what they were put on earth to do, was to train younger people to take on the profession and to be able to learn some of the hard lessons that the mentor had learned at a younger age, and spare some of the heartache and heartbreak that's along the way. And so some are especially gifted at it and focus on it in particular as their particular skill set. So I do think we find in Star Wars some examples of some masters who don't really want to be masters to Padawans.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's a danger there. I think it's at its best when a master is willing to kind of teach on the go. Like, we're going to go do a mission, and I'm not going to give you all the information you need ahead of time. I'll let you make your own mistakes. But then, hey, I'm here to help you learn some lessons along the way. Let's break down how this just went. Not to be so directive as to say, this is exactly what you have to do, or no, you're not ready for that assignment, but come with me and learn on the fly. So I do this in ministry, you know, hey, let's go do this thing together, this task, this service, and just be by my side. You don't have to say anything. Just be with me and learn, then we'll talk afterward. And so I think learning on the fly and being able to teach on the go outside the classroom. I mean, there's how much you actually learn in the classroom, right?
Right. And I love that you I think you unintentionally slipped us in there, the idea of, you know, be with me. What does Rey repeat in the sequel trilogy all the time?
There it is.
Be with me.
That's amazing.
Be with me. And she just wants the masters of old to be with her as she does these things. And I think that's exactly what Padawans need. And masters need is like, listen, like you're saying, Jared, even if you don't absorb everything, even if you don't make the right decision, be with me. And I think that does apply to masters just as much as Padawans. Because as Yoda says, masters learn the most from the younglings. They learn the most from their Padawans by just being with them and observing how they learn. And I think that's when it's at its best in the reverse, is when Yoda is, you know, learning about Camino and is doing everything with the kids. Is like, I never stop learning, even though I'm the most powerful person ever. I love Padawans and love initiates because the next generation always sees the world differently than I do, and I'll never stop. And I think that's really exciting. And for me, that's, I think, when it's at its best. Wes, what do you guys think? When is the Padawan master really just humming for you? Maybe not so many specifics just yet, but idealistically, when is this at its best?
I mean, I kind of mentioned it earlier, but I think when the master isn't like super preachy or holier than thou,
What's
they
wrong
don't
with
act
preaching?
like they. That was
The
not
preachy, not
targeted at you,
preacher.
Jared. I promise. Poor choice of
Continue.
words. I think when a master can kind of get to the Padawan's level a little bit so that they can form a bond. And then maybe they can, sort of teach them in a more formal manner. But I also think that, like, maintaining a relationship is important. I think we see a lot throughout Star Wars that the Masters and Padawans that aren't very close kind of do the worst in terms of, learning from each other, which is kind of interesting to me because, they always preach about the negative side of attachment. However, we do see that the ones that get more attached do better, so I find that interesting. But yeah, I think just forming a bond and learning from each other, like you guys said, is when it's at its best.
Mutually beneficial relationship.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, y'all put it right where I was going to say. I mean, where you start learning from each other. When like something happens, whether it be a battle, whether it be, whether it be even, I laughed, Jared, when you said, what do you learn in the classroom? You probably learn a lot in the classroom. Where you can apply that learning is whether you have actually taken in those teachings. So, I think once I said with the minor league baseball analogy, once those paths cross, when they start learning from each other, is when the master Padawan relationship is at its best for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's so exciting and electric when that does happen. But of course, as anything, with the Force, with story, with life, there's always balance, right? And I think that the master Padawan relationship does also have some dangers associated with it. I think that we see examples in Star Wars of Padawans that are either, just constantly angry at their masters and just constantly pushing against it. We see masters that are afraid to let go. And I think, we see that in teachers and parents as well, is that, you see the inability to let the child explore and understand can really hinder the parent. Whereas the absent teacher, the absent master who never wanted one, is also hard because then the pupil doesn't have guidance. So I wanted to ask you guys then, before we get into some really excellent ones, about the dangers of this relationship, because for me, I think it's really fascinating to see the Padawan relationship of people like Obi-Wan and Anakin lead to, okay, we're a little too familiar, maybe a little too equal, and at the end, that lack of definition of roles, maybe the over-reliance on being brothers didn't help Anakin grow as a child or a student as much. And I don't know, that one this year with all the content we've gotten has really been on my mind about should Obi-Wan have been a little more parental than brother at a certain point? Did Anakin try to rebel a little too much, or was it correct? And I don't know, but when do you guys think that this relationship maybe gets a little unhealthy or unhelpful?
I would say, I would say that on one side, one example would be the master he kind of leaves it up to the Padawan to find their own path, but doesn't actually give them enough guidance to where they need to be. It would be super interesting to see Qui-Gon as Anakin's master, right?
Oh yeah.
He would
the ultimate what if.
Lets him do his thing, and then Anakin does harbors feelings of his mother and all those dark feelings. Does that just push him to the dark side even faster? Or does it make him? Does Qui-Gon step in and help guide him out of that, or does he even think about it at all? It's just that's a whole other podcast we can make and be whole theoretical of what if Qui-Gon was Anakin's master.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is the like. Does the teacher actually want you just to have free time, or they just want a movie day because they're hungover? Like, is there what's the reasoning behind letting the students be free? You know,
Right.
I'm a sub. I could say that.
Great point in the chat from Stephanie Mack. Obi-Wan was barely an adult and should not have been tasked with raising the most
Right.
powerful Jedi
That's a great
who
point.
ever lived, and is already headstrong and
Yeah.
difficult and argumentative, and let's be honest, annoying as all 10-year-olds
Sure.
are.
I don't care what you agreed with Qui-Gon with. That promise means nothing to the council.
Well, I'm not saying that they shouldn't have done it, but it's a great comment from Stephanie to point out the fact that Obi-Wan and Anakin relationship is really complex and really complicated. There's so many levels. I think one of the big problems, and I deal with this as a parent, and I'm trying to work on this, is to not gripe about every last nitpicky problem. The amount, those popsicles that come in the sleeves.
Oh
Yeah.
yes,
The ones that when you were a kid,
the
you could turn
greatest
with a
summer
lightsaber,
treat.
bzzz,
Yes,
you squeeze
yes,
them.
and it cuts the side of your mouth.
So we got a big bag of those in the freezer. The amount of the tips of those things that have been cut off that I have found lying around my house this summer. I find them. They're under pillows. They're on the table. They're under the table. They're in the dog's bed. I mean, they're.
Jared, I think I might be able to help you with that just real quick.
What's that?
I saw not long ago on social media that you're just supposed to take those things and snap them in half. And you're not supposed to bite the ends off or
No
any of
way.
that. And you're just
You
keep
dual
them
wield?
frozen, you just
This
snap
is
them in half.
life-changing.
Yep,
that's
and you
it.
do wield. That's it.
All right. All right. Cut away for somebody else for like 30 seconds. I'm gonna go grab one out of the freezer.
Sure, yeah.
No, here's my point. Okay. What was my point? Okay, I can't nitpick at my kids with every last one of these friggin' things I find lying around my house, because I have a responsibility as a father that's more than just nitpicking for their little slip-ups, right?
Right.
They've got to learn patience and love. I've got to be firm and yet also gentle and fun, but also serious. Somehow all these things, and that's in so many ways what a master has to do for their Padawan.
Good point.
I think at its worst, that Obi-Wan Anakin relationship at the beginning of Attack of the Clones, I think, is a great example of the worst of that relationship, where Obi-Wan is nitpicking at Anakin over everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And it is infuriating. And you're like, yeah, no wonder this guy's about to have a psychotic break. And then attach so head over heels, fall in love with the first person who shows him any kind of affection.
Yeah,
Because
right.
At that point in their relationship, Obi-Wan was not cutting it. And
No.
I think that's a real negative aspect of that relationship. A pitfall is to try to correct every last misstep.
Yeah, I love that, and honestly, I want to take that as a segue into our next bit here, which is a homework assignment. Speaking of teachers, I did give everyone had an assignment this week to pick what they think the epitome of a great master Padawan relationship is, and we all took this in a little bit of a different direction. And I'm going to start off with the one that I chose. If you've been listening to the show for a while, this probably won't be a huge surprise to you. But the idea of not nitpicking and letting the Padawan evolve and doing things on the go, everything you're saying, Jared, really resonates with me, because that's exactly how I see this relationship. And the folks that I chose, yes, Justin,
Yeah.
it is Loden Greatstorm and Bel Zettifar of the High Republic are my favorite Master Padawan duo, shown here as illustrated by Jake Bartok, one of the greats. I absolutely love his art here. But first appearing in Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule, what I love so much about this Padawan and Master relationship is Loden's attitude towards Bel, because you never question that he sees him as a student, sees him as a learner, but he has so much joy with teaching Bel, and he so clearly reveres when Bel makes a discovery or when Bel does something great, and he still has enough tongue in cheek to allow them to have fun together without ever sacrificing the obvious dynamic of Master and Padawan. And obviously later on in the High Republic, they are separated, and you feel the intensity of their loss for one another. Loden is missing Bell. Bell is clearly missing Loden. And I think that how much they miss each other is such a testament to their bond as well. Because, when you love someone, when in a personal, professional capacity, when they are separated from you or lost from you, then you really kind of have a, unfortunately, deeper understanding about what they meant to you while they were there. And I think that Bell's continuation of his own training and of the lessons that Loden so clearly taught him really showed me what a special bond they were. So to me, the two of them are so key because it's just it really hits me, man. And I think that to have a teacher or a parent that believes in you the way Loden believes in Bell, I think is so special. And I think that's why Bell is such a strong character in the rest of Phase 1. And these guys, when we first came up with this episode, this was the obvious one for me, because if every Padawan master could have that kind of relationship and the learning that Bell and Loden have together, Jedi be in a pretty great place. So that's my choice.
I think it's such baloney that we didn't see more of them together.
It's a beautifully written relationship.
I wanted to say another word, but
the whole jump off a cliff thing. I mean, it's so well done.
Go
so
jump.
Well done.
Go.
Because if it wasn't written well, it could have seemed like mean or even like abusive, but it never seemed that way.
Yeah,
which is good.
Yeah, and also to have a teacher that always looks at Bell and is like, what is like when they save the compound and Loden's like, hey, what do we say today about danger? What does the Force tell us today? Like, always using lessons, but in a fun way to keep things light, but also to keep things impactful. Like, it's really a testament to the writing of Charles Soule, especially, like, that you could get that good of a teacher, which makes me think that he might have had a really great teacher in his life,
Sure. Yeah, it's a good point. He did, because he rocks those cardigans. And
yes!
He got that from somewhere.
You're right.
A Mr. Rogers type of cardigan.
Oh, yeah, you don't just get those. That's a teacher. That is a teacher right there.
What if we see that in Phase 2, like
a cardigan?
Cool cardigan.
No, right, exactly, yeah.
I feel like in The Mandalorian, like the
fisherman's
cardigan.
Yeah. We can absolutely do that. But no,
I could dig it.
Like, what if we see like Loden and his master? Like, that'd be cool.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
I don't know how long
That's true.
Twi'leks live. I don't know.
That's right. If you slice off the brain tail and you measure the rings,
that's how brain tail.
So you're saying Markion Rowe would be able to tell how old Loden is, because he absolutely did. Oh, buddy.
I feel that.
Yeah, I can feel that. So those are my guys. Wes, I want to go to you because you took this in a completely different direction.
Of course I did.
With a very very surprising, but also not at all surprising pairing. So who'd you get for your Master Padawan relationship here?
So I did Obi-Wan and Anakin. Now, I don't know if I'm
not in the outline, buddy.
So my Master in Padawan that I wanted to explore more was Lean Costana and Sifo Dyas. If y'all have watched before, I'm obsessed with Sifo Dyas because they don't talk about him enough. But so Lean Costana was like obsessed with finding Sith artifacts, and the Council kind of thought that was a little risky, especially by taking on Padawans. But with Sifo Dyas as her Padawan, this is all the choosing of who the Padawan was from Lean Costana was in Dooku Jedi Lost. Mm-hmm. And it was Dooku that thought he was going to be Costana's master, but in the big swerve, she selects Sifo Dyas. So one of the things that really caught me to choose this relationship was Lean Costana was she knew about Sifo Dyas's force visions or his and she like encouraged him to look for those, even though she knew that the Council would probably look against that and have him not do that because that's very, very dangerous. It's put path to the dark side. So she didn't tell the council, and she encouraged it. And she also took him on quests where he was able to use his force visions, and they saw various things that had, like there was one where she encouraged him to open his mind to the cosmic force, and he had seen a planet basically engulfed in flames, and it before it even happened, and she encouraged him to keep pursuing that. And then this is when he started getting those force visions that they were like migraines almost.
Yeah.
Where he would just fall to the ground and he would start convulsing. But she would always encourage that, because the force vision was something that I believe that she thinks would help the Jedi and the people of the galaxy in the long run, right? So she didn't think that it was going to be something that this was ultimately going to send him to the dark side. He was going to be turned into a Sith or anything like that. But this particular force power is something that was going to help the galaxy. But it was so frowned upon by the council, she wasn't able to open up and tell many people about it. So like the encouragement, but also having to like hold back and not say anything to your higher ups or to your peers, even, because she was on the council. And one of the things that floored me was that Sifo Dyas was on the council too, just for a short time, until they found out about his force visions, and they told him, "You're out of here, buddy."
Yeah.
Get
To
that
have a
man some
master
Found out
that-
how
tech.
weird he was.
Yeah, Link Astana kept secrets.
Yeah.
And that's something that I feel like you could trust your master in that way, but like if you had, like, would you trust her fully because she's not telling like their higher ups? Or that's the thing that caught me off guard a little bit when I was thinking about it. It's like,
Yeah.
yes, she's keeping my force power a secret, but should she be telling? Like if I was younger and a Padawan, I'm like, thank you for not telling anybody, you know? But
Yeah.
when you get older, you're like, maybe somebody should have known because they could have helped me a little bit better.
It's like that cool English teacher where like the student is like, "Hey, can we just talk as like this?" He's like, "Yeah." And they just like are the confidant. I think that's
Promise me I won't get in trouble. Promise me you won't get me in trouble. You won't send me to detention.
well, and I think that's an interesting thing that we didn't quite touch on in the earlier part of the episode was the master as confidant. I love that,
Confidant.
Wes.
Thank you.
There are things that a Padawan will tell their master they won't tell anyone else, and there is something so special about that. And I think every parent hopes to have that trust with their child, and I think some teachers, to an extent, hope that if students are having issues, they come to them. But with Sifo Dyas and Kastana, that is so fascinating because we really don't see anything to that level anywhere else. Because that changed the galaxy.
And she was also like a mentor to Dooku, but not really a master to him. Like because
Right.
while Yoda was teaching Dooku, she was also there, kind of nudging him along with his force powers too. So she was kind of guiding him a little bit, but she was doing the same with Sifo Dyas, which was pretty interesting.
I imagine
Man.
you talking about this story is what a lot of people must feel when I talk about Legends, because I
Yeah.
remember next to nothing about it.
I was like, what? And it's
Wow.
and it's fascinating and
Right.
great. So
Yeah.
Dooku Jedi lost. So we've hit a couple eras now. We've hit the High Republic era. We've hit the pre-prequels era. And now Jared completely turned us to 180
Yeah.
and take us to a totally different era, buddy. This
Not
is a
just
great
a
pick
different
when you messaged me
era.
this.
But a different universe
Yes, completely.
entirely.
Let's
But
do it.
we're going to
Surprise,
talk about a very
surprise.
familiar character, but not one that I bet many of you ever would have thought about as a Padawan. And that is Leia Organa Solo. You say Organa or
I know her.
Organa?
I say Organa myself.
Organa.
Me too.
I
Organa.
say
Organa.
Organa.
That's my anyway. All right. So for a long time, she gets a little bit of Jedi training and then gets caught up in politics. You know, has like a whole universe to run.
Hate it when
So-
that happens.
Doesn't have time for the Jedi training. Does a little bit, I think, in like the Thrawn trilogy, if I remember correctly. But similar to what happens in canon, goes more of the politician route. However, always has like a little bit of force sensitivity, some Jedi skills. A couple of times in Legends, Luke's like, "Leia, you've got to complete your training," and she's like, "Luke,
That's a good
don't-
Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
You ought to hear my Dave Filoni. It's bad. It's very bad. So she, for 20 years, is one of the top dogs in the like chief of state or associate chief of state to Mon Mothma in leading the entire New Republic. Then has kind of done that, and Luke is restarting a Jedi Order, and so she finally completes her training, and it's fun to see what different authors will do with this. And so there's this one author, Troy Denning, who in Legends fans consider his books the Denning verse, because it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing.
Snyderverse.
Exactly. He does his own thing, and you love it or hate it. And his stuff is super brutal and action packed, and there's lots of. If you like it when Star Wars characters lose limbs, you'll love the Denning books.
Fair.
So,
Fair.
This relationship that I'm going to talk about is from some of the least loved Legends books. Say that 5 times fast. However, it's a great relationship. And I think the fact that these books are so dense and difficult is one reason why people don't really get insight into this relationship. Because Leia is apprenticed after having failed at being Luke's apprentice. Could you possibly learn Jedi skills from your brother?
No.
As an only child, I assume not.
It doesn't work. So you know what? Luke pairs her with a reptilian Jedi master, a Barabel mother of her hatchlings, and yet like Luke found her as a force-sensitive Jedi. That's the cool thing about Legends is you'll go to this obscure part of the galaxy, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh look, there was a Jedi out here all alone all this time. Come on over to the temple, and you can bring all. Oh, you've got students too. Good. We need more characters. Please help us repopulate the galaxy. So then, by the time you get late in Legends, there's all these Jedi's running around. You have Jedi masters, Jedi younglings, the middle ones, teenagers. You know, they're everywhere.
Middle ones.
Luke trains some, but he doesn't train. Luke only trains like half of them. The others, they're out there doing their own thing, learning the Star Wars on accident, just like Luke did. All that is to say, her master. Do we have a photo of her? Saba Sabatine.
Yes, of
Saba
course.
Sabatine is
Saba Sabatine.
is
Wow.
Leia's Jedi master. They are both adults.
Oh boy.
And that's what makes this relationship so weird. Yeah. And in the audiobook, she kind of has this smoker voice.
Like friggin'
Wow.
like Roz
so
from
good,
Monsters
Jared.
Inc.
Yeah. So shout out to Mark Thompson. Very, very much Roz meets a Trandoshan, right? So
Love it.
Wow.
It's kind of.
I'd read that book.
Yeah, it's like a Trandoshan. She's a bearable, and as such is super brutal and like eats the flesh of her enemies and is no nonsense, but also sarcastic, and so has this unorthodox teaching style that works with Leia. Doesn't try to teach her at all like Luke had tried to teach her, like follow the rules and be a goody two-shoes and drink your hot chocolate like me. Instead, she's like, Leia, would you like to eat the flesh of this villain I just killed? You know, and so, yeah, you know. And so
Denning
that's-
verse.
And then let me guess, she says something like, "No, I'm like a vegan," or something.
Yeah, for sure she is. You know it. You know it. And so here's the cool thing. What they have in common is they're both mothers. So they have
that's
both
cool.
they've got the shared bond that runs deeper than the middle-aged man and the teenager. That is, I think, how a lot of us think about a master Padawan relationship. It's a totally different spin on it, and it is beautiful. Part of it is because the relationship is like one of the shining things in what is otherwise a very bleak trilogy, commonly referred to the Darkness trilogy, commonly referred to as the Bug Books, which to me that's canonical. That's how we refer to that trilogy. They are the Bug Books.
I love that.
Wow.
There you go. Saba 17
Wow.
and Leia Organa Solo finally becomes a full-fledged Jedi in the Bug
Wow.
Books.
Yeah, I love that because there's such a cool idea of like adults learning from other adults. I feel like is frowned upon stupidly in society because we all assume, okay, once I'm out of college, I'm done learning and no one else can teach me stuff. And it's like I learned so much from folks my age or older or frankly younger all the time that are adults. Like there's no reason you can't learn from someone that's had different life experiences than you or like this more training. Like that's awesome.
A totally different species. Be open to new ideas and different kinds of people. And Leia is a pro at that because she's a diplomat.
Yes.
And what's amazing about this is its representation. I think Legends gets frowned upon for its, this, that, or the other, and right,
sure.
so sometimes we had Emma on the Legends Look Back last week and talked about some toxic masculinity and sexism in a Darth Vader comic that we read, but just otherwise a great comic.
Right.
This is cool though because it is representation. It's a mom who takes on a new career path.
Yeah.
As middle-aged, midway through life, it's like, you know what, I did this, I'm going to go a new direction now, I've got a different calling.
Yeah.
A
Love
mom who is learning, as women learning from women supporting women, and it's reptile females. It's cool to see after the kids are out of the house. Well, of course they've been out of the house a lot because Leia's doing important things and her kids are all Jedis, but you get the picture. After the kids are out of the house, I know a lot of women who then take on a new career, go do something new, after a lot of parents who do. So this is a cool spin on that.
Gosh.
Really
I
love
love
that.
I love, like, God, we could not have picked 3 more different groupings. Are just so great. And then, of course, Emma, bring us home here. I mean, we're going 4 for 4 here. You want to talk about another completely different, yet maybe slightly more traditional pairing, but also completely not traditional at all.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for reptiles. Please have reptiles.
No reptiles. I feel like, okay, this one I think is a really, well, I haven't seen anyone say it in the chat, actually. I was going to say it's super common choice, but now I don't know. I chose Anakin and Ahsoka. And there's many reasons
Oh my God, I love
that
that
I
picture.
love this relationship. I think that this is one of the rare instances where we see Padawans and masters kind of grow together. I think we don't get to see enough of the same master and Padawan together for a long period of time, seeing how they grow together. And that's one thing that I really cherish about their relationship. Hang on, we got a spammer in the chat. 1 minute.
Oh my gosh, the spammers tonight.
I thought I got rid of them.
We've
I
got
thott I did too. Oh.
Star Wars
Got
to
'em.
talk about here.
Time out. Go away.
Got 'em.
Okay. All right.
Go away!
Okay. Train of
I
thought.
already
Okay.
know where the best love chat XYZ adult dating site is. Thank you very much.
And they just
Sorry,
got
are you
their
audio
ads,
listeners?
so-
See what you miss on Mondays?
Okay.
All right, you got this. Here you go.
Okay. So, I think being able to see Ahsoka, so she's, what is she, like 14 when they meet in the Clone Wars, somewhere around there.
Something like that.
And we get to see her all the way to the Siege of Mandalore with Anakin, where she's older. I can't remember her age off the top of my head, but she has changed a lot. And Anakin has changed a lot, and they've changed each other a lot because Anakin acts differently in her presence, and Ahsoka acts differently in his presence. But I would say that they, for the most part, are good influences on each other. Like, I mean, yeah, they get into some mischief and all of that.
Sure.
But I think that, Anakin is kind of quick to anger and jealousy without her around, and they kind of ground each other. Even though I know that sounds like totally backwards, because again, like the whole mischief, but they really do. I think they ground each other, and they clearly care for each other a lot. I think that this is. It was hard to pick this one, to be honest, because I was like, oh, it ends tragically though. Like, but I don't think that was because of Ahsoka, honestly. I think, I think the Clone Wars season 7, specifically the Siege of Mandalore, I think it made us all wonder about a lot of what ifs. Like, what if Ahsoka had contacted Anakin before he, went off to Mustafar like they were supposed to?
Yeah.
Would that have
Yeah.
saved him? And I truly think it would have,
boy.
because she is such a grounding presence for him. Anakin would die for her. I believe that there are 3 people in the world, in the galaxy, that Anakin would die for. Padme, obviously. Obi-Wan, I think that's pretty obvious too. And Ahsoka. And I just think that it's a special relationship that I don't think goes too far in terms of their attachment. But I think that he also does a good job of like teaching her in a practical way, like bringing her on missions, getting her hands dirty, letting her lead her own mission and things like that. I think all of it is so great. And I think that they're a great example of what teamwork can do in these pairings. And I think even though it ends in tragedy, I do think that it's all around successful, because look at what Ahsoka goes on to be in life.
Yeah.
He's not a perfect teacher to her, but he is a very good teacher to her.
Yeah.
And you see him really developing as a human. He's become so much more emotionally capable
Yeah.
than he is in Attack of the Clones, as we develop through the Clone Wars. And then when she's ripped from him and that trauma he experiences with that, and then the pain and anger and resentment, disillusionment he has toward the Jedi Order, brings you right back to the place where you're like, okay, yeah, he's totally gonna go dark.
Yeah.
And
how many lies have I been told by the council? Like, she's the one that sets him off.
But otherwise, he was becoming, with Ahsoka, he was really benefiting a lot from having been her teacher.
Yeah, and I also want to point out too that this is one of the few Master Padawans relationship that actually work out despite the Master not wanting a Padawan. You know what I mean?
Yes, right.
And I find that really interesting, because I think Anakin needed it, whereas like the other Masters that take one on that don't really want one, they do it because they feel like they're obligated to, whereas Anakin actually learned something.
Yeah, and I love them for that reason, because also their power structure is so interesting. In the Clone Wars movie where we see them meet, like he is so against it and she's like, "You're stuck with me, Sky Guy," kind of thing. And then she is the one at the end of it, especially, who is never afraid to call out Anakin on something. And it's never in a disrespectful way.
Right.
It's always just in like, "Hey, I care about you. I know you. Heads up. You're doing this." Or like, "This is wrong. Like, how could you be in favor of this?" And I think that's also a really interesting part of this Master Padawan relationship, is a Padawan that reveres their master, but also holds them accountable for the person they need to be, which I think for any student or child, as you get older and you have more conversations with your parents or teachers on more of that equal ground, it gets harder and harder if they say something or do something and you have to be like, "Hey, maybe I don't agree with that. Hey, maybe I'm not that." And I think Ahsoka is such a great model for that, about still being respectful, but being like, "Hey, I'm not just a child anymore. We've been through war together. Like, this is wrong,
she's
or you should
tutored
do
by
this."
Plo Koon and Obi-Wan and Captain Rex as much as she is, at least combined.
Yeah.
In a similar, adds up to an influence kind of like Anakin. And so she's got these other outside influences that counterbalance and help give her more perspective. It's just a great all-around example of a Padawan just being a sponge and then growing beyond where they started.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's a megazord of education.
Snips and Sky Guy kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a great point that like it's important to not only have that one singular teacher, but also have other good influences around you, so that you get to build other relationships and get to learn, other techniques and styles and ideas.
Sure.
Like that is also super important. I'm glad you brought
Two
that
of
up.
my greatest mentors are arch rivals. So,
which is awesome. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
that's also
Both
not
can be
only
true.
is that like the makeup of grad schools, but it's also the makeup of the Jedi Temple. Like the fact that the Padawans, when they're learning, you have your master and that's who you go on missions with, but you're taking classes with Yoda, you're meeting other masters. Like you're I think that's also why, at least most university scenarios are structured like that, is that you have multiple people you teach from and pull from. So ideally, once you leave and ascend to your own university graduate or Jedi Knight, like you have taken the best lessons from every person you've ever known. And I think we should all be so lucky when we get old to, look back on our lives and be like, I took the best lessons from everyone I ever knew. And I hope that I gave some of those lessons back to the people that I met.
Oh,
Yeah.
And I think that's,
And just
That is beautiful.
And-
Eric, geez, stop it.
and even before they progress into graduation or being a Jedi Knight, I mean, you're also trying to teach the people before you or below you, like as in the Clone Wars episode where they go to was it Islam for the
Ilum.
That's a religion.
Ilum for
That's a religion.
Islam. Where they go to Ilum for to find their
Kyber crystals.
kyber crystals. Sorry, yeah.
You're great at
It's
Star
like
Wars.
she
Wes.
sat there. She sat there with Yoda the entire time and just let them run off. And she helped, guide the way a little bit, but she was in there learning from Yoda as well.
Yeah, and I think as we kind of come to the end tonight, I think it's so interesting that a series that began in the 70s and 80s with one Jedi, and then one teacher, and all these things. That now, this 45 years later, this idea of teacher and student is so important and has gone through so many iterations, as we showed tonight. 4 completely different relationships, but 4 completely legitimate, equal ideas of how to learn. I think it's so great that Star Wars has taken that up because, like George says, these are a lot for kids. Like, kids read these, kids learn these. And I hope that a kid can maybe see some of these Padawan relationships we see and be like, oh, that's the kind of Padawan I want to be. That's the teacher I have. Oh, you're my Yoda. You're my Plo Koon. You're my scroll. You're my Seba Sebathine. Like, you are that to me. And
rolls off the tongue. Saba 17.
it works great. But as we come to the end here, I want to give you all one more chance. Let's go around the horn and kind of say, of Masters and Padawans, what do you think is the most important thing about the Master Padawan relationship now, looking back on all of these examples we've given, and what have you, I'll put us on the spot, what have you as a person learned the most from your own Master or Padawan? Jared, I want to start with you. You've had such good mentor talk this whole time.
Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely. This one wasn't in the notes. I love
Nope.
this.
That's welcome to Living Force, baby.
Patience is so huge.
Oh, sure.
I love that scene at the beginning of Luke's time on Dagobah where Yoda is being a little gremlin. You know, where he's banging on R2 with the stick. Oh, give it back. Oh, it's my cracker.
It's my dinner.
Mine. And Luke is like, I'm fed up with this. I want to go home. I came here to learn from a Jedi Master. And
Such a good lead.
then Yoda goes,
Such a whiny
it was
Luke.
me the whole time. And I just remember the first time I saw that as a kid, I thought, oh, he's in trouble now. And so Luke doesn't have the patience. But then, like, later on at the training montage, Yoda loses patience with Luke for being such a bozo. Luke is ready to go off on his adventure and save his friends. And Luke is right. And yet Yoda's also right. And it's such a dilemma. And that's the moral gray area of Empire. But Yoda gets so fed up with Luke's not a good apprentice. He's too impatient. And he doesn't have enough faith to rise the X-Wing from the swamp. And so, you know, Yoda eventually has to learn that he still had some learning to do. You know, he needed to be able to learn from Luke. Luke really tested his patience. I think that with the Master Padawan relationship, it takes a lot of patience to teach these younglings who still have so much to learn. Their brains are still developing, and you know, all this good stuff. You know, for me as a father, I'm just always having to take a breath and smile and enjoy and realize that they'll learn from what I have to say. They'll learn from especially repetition, but they're also going to learn from, in hindsight, how I handled myself when things were at their worst. And so I think patience is the biggest factor.
Love that. Wes, how about you?
So mentors in my life, I've had a few mentors where I was the mentee, I guess, but not one in a sense that has hit me as much as Utini has, as being open-minded with like other people's feelings and how they've come from different parts of the world and they have different experiences, and that's how I've learned to be open-minded to different views and different experiences. And I think that's one of the things that the Master and Padawan's relationship is when you look at Anakin has he has kind of a demeanor to where he's always right. He wants to be the best at absolutely everything, but you don't have to always be the best at everything. And that's what Obi-Wan was trying to teach him. And to also be mindful of the living force. But, you know, I think that looking through the eyes of others, whether it be your mentors, whether it be your friends, whether it be other masters, other Jedi Knights, other people that you see, gets the more experience and the more information that you can grab from other people who have taken a different path than you, will help you be a more rounded person, a more rounded Jedi, a more rounded master, and a better overall
Preach.
a better overall mentor to somebody else in the future.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Emma, how about you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I've learned from Ahsoka is just to not be afraid to like speak up for yourself. I think she does that a lot, and I think that's really important to that's an important lesson to teach kids and adults, honestly. I mean, we all need the reminder sometimes. Not only speaking up for yourself, but not to be afraid to do it, like, no matter who you're speaking up to. You know what I mean? It's okay if you're speaking up for yourself with your master or your parents or, you know, whoever. And I think that's a really good lesson. And I think the other thing I really have learned from her is to be open to learning new things and always just kind of keep an open mind about different people's ideas and knowledge, and that you don't always know everything, and it's okay to learn things from other people.
Love that.
How about you, Eric?
Man, yeah. I think for me, I think about Loden and Bell. Slight spoilers for the High Republic Phase 1. It's been months. You get it. But I think
I'm sure nothing bad happens in that, right?
I'm sure nothing bad. It's a mixture of that, but also of Luke and the Last Jedi, with no one's ever really gone, right? And I think that one of the great things about a good mentor and a good parental figure, teacher, is that whether they're gone from you because they've passed, whether they're gone from you just because you've grown apart, is that the lessons that you learn from these people are not. And I think that no matter what age you were when you learned them, those are part of you forever. And I think that's really something beautiful that I've tried to keep with me, that even if there's some people I don't talk to anymore, or even if I feel sorrow because there's some people that I would have liked more time with, the lessons they taught me and the person that they helped made me are continuing. And the way that I live my life and the way that I try to be a better person based on their teachings to others is them continuing. And I think that's part of the beautiful part about mentorship and family and, teachers and students, is that whoever you speak to, you are honoring the legacy of the people who taught you, of every master, of every parent. And that is why, we always talk about legacy in Star Wars. It's not only based on blood. It's not only based on Force sensitive or not. Every person that met every other person in the galaxy carried on their legacy. And I think I've tried to honor the legacy of those that I love and care about, that taught me going forward. And I think that that's a beautiful idea, that we are all going to affect everyone we ever meet. And we couldn't have done that without our teachers and our masters. So,
Great.
yeah, I mean,
love that. This went to some deep places.
Yeah, it's kind of beautiful that, again, this is a saga of space wizards and blaster fights and starships. And tomorrow there's a book coming out about Obi-Wan, and he's a teenager, and there's some fun antics. But there's such great life lessons that we all learn every week, every month, every year. And to all of you listening, all of you watching, I know this universe has touched you, or else you wouldn't be here. And I think that's a really great way for us all to just carry it on in our lives, and why this community is so beautiful. And, we're all each other's masters and students. We're all learning from each other every day. And I'm very blessed to have all of you to teach me every day. So
Beautiful. And the Lando books, every time that, you know what I'm about to say, every time his droid, Buffy Raw, calls him master, it's like an inside joke, but it's the worst one ever in the history of Star Wars. Every time every time the droid Buffy Raw says to Lando, "Okay, master, thank you, master," or "Shall I go over here, master?" Lando turns, what's he say, Wes? You remember?
I don't remember what he says.
Every single time he says, "Don't call me master."
Don't call me master. Yeah.
I'm telling you, it might be in these 3 books 1,000 times. So you said we are all each other's masters. I'm so immersed in this.
It just keeps poking him. Master, hey master, I need to go in. Master, where are you going, master?
I almost just said that to you.
Well, of course, for more of that, you're going to hear about the Legends race to the finish before we get out of here, because again, Emma and Jared, thank you guys so much for coming on. I love whenever we can
so
bring.
much.
This was truly. I loved every second of it.
It's always fun.
Emma, Wednesday evening on the Cosmic Force. What are you guys bringing up?
Yeah, this Wednesday we are talking about our favorite Star Wars comics of all time. So if it's gonna be a big episode, yeah. So if you haven't listened if you've listened to like all of our episodes, you kind of generally know our favorites, just because we throw them out here and there. But I'm really excited to hear Timothy's favorites and just kind of get them all in one episode. So that'll be really good. And yeah,
Fun.
this episode has
man.
been a lot of fun. It hit me
Checking
a little
my
harder
calendar.
emotionally than I thought because I'm about to graduate college. So I'm like, oh, this is hard. But
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
it's good. It's
I
good.
remember
This
when you
is fun.
started college.
I do too.
My gray hairs are growing as we speak.
Well, I mean,
Well,
that's
Emma-
like that's the crazy thing though. Like I look at you guys all as like mentors to me. Like I met you guys like my first year of college, and now I'm like about to graduate. It's full circle,
It's really beautiful, and I'm so glad that in the midst of all this, I'll be able to hear you talk about your love for Shadows of the Empire on Wednesday, and I think that's really what
That's
matters.
right. That's one on my list.
Jared,
Somewhere. That's right.
that's right.
For legal
Thursday
reasons,
evening.
that's a joke.
For legal reasons, it's a joke. Hashtag Prince Gizor. Jared, Thursday at Legends Look Back. What are you guys covering?
Yeah. Don't remember. We're doing something. But next week, the week after that, we are going to have Corey on for our 100th episode of Legends Look Back.
Wow!
Our
That's awesome.
100th
Great choice.
episode. We
100.
have finally arrived from a certain point of view because we're not counting bonus episodes
Nah,
or
nah,
audio
no.
only. It's like proper episodes at 100. And I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure this is Corey's Legends Look Back debut.
I think it is.
That sounds right.
He might have been on one other, and if so, it was recently.
count.
But yeah,
Wow.
it didn't count because we're gonna have Corey on for a Core and Horn spectacular. No, it's not, but that's what I'm telling him it is.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
waiting to see how nervous he gets, and close us out of here before the bots take us down.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited for that. And then we don't always do this, but I'll give you guys a sneak peek next week on Living Force. We would usually do our Shadows of the Sith roundtable. Charles is on vacation one more week, so we are pushing that until the second week of August, August 8th, for Shadows of the Sith. But next week, we are talking all Star Wars romance. We're going into a little preview of Princess and the Scoundrel. So lots of good UTD content coming your way. But in the week before all this, if you have a mentor or you have a Padawan or anyone you've learned some lessons from, let them know. Let them know that they've affected your life, and I'm sure they'd love it. I think it's really important to let people know that they've affected us when they have, because though no one is ever truly gone, it's always nice to tell them while they're here. So on that, everyone, that will do it for this week's episode of The Living Force. If you support us on Patreon, thank you so much. You are the reason we're able to do all of this. And a special thank you to Brian Dooley, Patrick Ortiz, Earl Q, and Carl Sander on our Jedi High Council, and Elizabeth Cloutier, Sally and Chris Eilerson on our Alliance High Command. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Eric Eilerson, Charles is at C. Hanko, Wes is at Boss West, Corey is at Corey M. Helton, Emma is at Irma Jedi 26, and Jared is at Jared Q. Mays.
Good job.
think. Yes!
Excellent.
A special thank you to Matt Davenport, our amazing editor, Ryan, our graphic designer extraordinaire, and Wes, our producer, Cincinnatian, and community manager. Thank you to Wes, Emma, and Jared for potting with me tonight. Thanks to all of you for hanging out, masters and Padawans alike. And as always, may the Force be with you.